I was a treaty partner, human. Why haven't you kissed me yet? She asked. The silent chamber of polished basalt held its breath, the air thick with anticipation. Across the obsidian table from Marcus, envoy of the Sol Federation, the Surnai delegation sat arrayed in perfect predatory poise. Sleek figures with skin like polished rubies, golden eyes unwavering, feline tails coiled in disciplined arcs behind them. Holographic glyphs flickered along the air between the two parties, finalizing the last lines of ancient Surnai language and new Federation code. Marcus watched the lights shimmer and pulse, a fragile bridge between civilizations. At the head of the Surnai, Chief Ambassador Raig rose. She was a daunting figure, taller than most of her kin, draped in a dark ceremonial mantle cut from something that shimmered like starlit velvet. A lattice of scars cross-hatched her left cheek, and her single remaining golden eye bore into Marcus with a weight earned through decades of command. The pact is forged, Marcus of Soul. Only the binding of fate remains. Marcus's heart thudded, expecting the sharp tang of Surnai wine or the rise of an oration. Instead, Raig gave a subtle signal with her clawed hand. Two imposing Surnai guards stepped aside, their armor clicking in unison. From the shadowed edge of the chamber emerged a figure who seemed sculpted from the same volcanic stone. Tall, athletic, her skin a deep, lustrous garnet, hair cascading in a crimson wave over her shoulders. Her ears flicked, sharply pointed and dusted with gold, her eyes, slitted and burning, locked on Marcus. Lysara. A ripple of energy moved through the Surnai. Marcus felt it in his own chest, the unspoken tension of something sacred, dangerous. Raig's voice resonated through the room. From my own bloodline, I present Lysara. She is yours, to seal our peace in honor and legacy. For a heartbeat, silence. Marcus's mind reeled. He had read of such customs, but the reality struck with the finality of a closing airlock. He glanced at the Federation's protocol officer, who stared back in mute horror. Refusal meant insult. Insult meant the crumbling of months of delicate negotiation. Lysara regarded him with a steel-edged composure. She was no trembling offering. Her eyes met his, measuring, not pleading. Marcus drew in a breath, heavy with the weight of history. He bowed his head, voice steady. I accept, in the spirit of peace between our peoples. The Surnai murmured, their tails relaxing, the tension in the chamber dissipating like a held breath released. Later, in his quarters, a sweep of glass and pale metal overlooking the planet's dark horizon, Marcus activated soft ambient lighting, shifting the room into twilight. He gestured for Lysara to enter. Her movements were soundless, yet she seemed to claim the space as her own, her presence turning the familiar chamber unfamiliar. He led her past the food synthesizer, its interface gleaming. If you're hungry, it can replicate most Surnai dishes. Federation cuisine as well. He showed her the bathing chamber, with its blue-lit basin and sonic showers. Privacy is yours. No one will disturb you here. She remained silent, feline eyes roaming the room, taking in every detail, the weapons rack, the console, the view. Her tail flicked. Marcus sensed her appraisal, as if she were cataloging threat and opportunity. In the training alcove, he paused. I had it outfitted for you, he said, almost apologetic. I read that Surnai warriors require space to move, she finished, voice low, with the faintest curl of amusement. At the drink station, Marcus poured 2 glasses of water, the liquid catching the starlight. He offered one to her. Lysara did not take it immediately. Instead, she studied him, nostrils flaring as if scenting his intentions. You claim me human, yet you keep your distance. Why? Her tone was sharp, edged with both curiosity and challenge. The room seemed to shrink around them, charged with unspoken questions and the hum of a nascent alliance. Marcus met her gaze, seeing not submission but a formidable spirit, An equal, perhaps, or an adversary yet to be defined. Curiosity and defiance mingled in the starlit room, and fate's binding began not with compliance, but with a shared, electric uncertainty. Dawn pressed thin gold through the high windows, slicing the chamber with restless light. Lysara sat rigid on the edge of the guest bed, her muscles taut beneath the shimmering sernai robe, every sense bristling. She had not slept. The silence was thick, broken only by the faint hum of the ship's life support and the distant echo of movement beyond the door. Marcus's absence clawed at her thoughts, his decision to sleep elsewhere a puzzle wrapped in insult. For a Sernai, such avoidance was not merely discomfort. It was a deep, public slight. In her culture, the first night after a binding demanded shared space, shared vulnerability, a gesture of mutual risk. Instead, she was alone, the vast suite a cage of luxury. She rose, the synthetic silk of her robe whispering across her skin, and crossed to the wardrobe. She dressed in training garb, close-fitted, silver-gleaming fabric that flexed with her every movement, then slipped into the corridor. Her bare feet made no sound on the polished floor. The training hall was a sunlit, echoing space at the heart of Marcus's suite, bordered by holographic panels that flickered with tactical readouts and Federation schematics. There she found him, alone, moving through a sequence that to her Sernai eyes was strange. No sharpness, no aggression, but a slow, rippling flow. His body, lean and disciplined, shifted with a grace that was almost alien. He wore loose black trousers and a sleeveless tunic, his feet bare, his gaze inward. She watched him for a moment, irritation rising. Was this how humans honed their edge? Where was the fire, the discipline, the test of mettle? She stepped into the circle, her voice a flint. "Do you find me lacking?" Marcus paused mid-motion, his breathing even. He regarded her over one shoulder, eyes calm and unguarded. "Not at all," he said, voice as cool and clear as spring water. "But I do not take what is not freely given." A flush rose beneath Lysara's red skin. Was this another human evasion, or a new kind of game? She squared her shoulders, chin lifted. "Perhaps you need proof of my worth." He shook his head, a slight motion. "I require no proof." She bared her teeth in a Sernai smile, a flash of challenge. "Then spar with me. Let me show you." Marcus hesitated. "I will not fight you," he said softly. "Not for dominance." Lysara shifted into a fighting stance, muscles coiling. "Then mirror me. Meet me in the flow." He nodded, stepping into her circle, feet settling into the floor. They faced each other, energy crackling between their bodies like charged air. She attacked, fast and fierce, all Sernai power, a blur of claws and muscle. He did not block. He redirected, sidestepped, hands brushing hers, guiding momentum. She pressed, relentless, expecting resistance, but he yielded, turning every strike into a dance, his body a river that could not be dammed. She spun, fainted, struck low, but he caught her wrist, twisted, and in a breath she found herself pinned, back against the mat. His forearm pressed lightly across her chest, not to hurt, but to hold. Their faces were close, breath mingling. She blinked, not from pain, but from the jolt of closeness. The contact was intimate, not victorious, an electric thrum between adversaries who were not enemies. He eased his grip, offered a hand to help her up. She slapped it aside, rolling to her feet with feline grace. Her tail lashed. "You refuse to conquer, yet you do not yield. What is it you want from me, human?" He regarded her, sweat gleaming on his brow. "Only that you choose. No more, no less." She stalked to the edge of the mat, pulse hammering. The dynamic between them had shifted, a new undercurrent flowing, neither dominance nor defeat, but a mutual recognition. He would not take. She would not submit. The terms of this alliance would be their own. A chime sounded, sharp and formal. Marcus glanced to the comms panel, retrieving a holographic missive. He turned, reading the Cernai glyphs. "We're expected at a diplomatic dinner tonight. The council wants to present us as a united front." Lysara arched a brow, half challenging. "Am I to be dressed as your prize?" He gestured to the synthesizer, its interface pulsing with colors and styles. "You may wear what you wish. The database includes Cernai ceremonial wear. Or you can create something new." She crossed to the machine, scrolling through options. Silks, armor, Federation-cut suits. She selected a gown of flowing scarlet, the fabric clinging to her body like molten light, slit high at the thigh, draping off one bare shoulder. When she emerged, the change was striking. Her red skin gleamed against the fabric, gold eyes catching the light, hair a dark cascade down her back. She looked every inch a Cernai noble. Marcus's gaze lingered, appreciative yet measured. "You look extraordinary," he said, voice deep with sincerity. Lysara's lips curled in faint amusement, but beneath it, she felt the shift, a recognition, not of possession, but of presence. They entered the banquet hall side by side, drawing every eye. The Cernai Council gathered at a crescent table, Federation dignitaries across from them, tension masked by ritual smiles. Marcus moved among them with diplomatic ease, his words measured, his posture relaxed, but never weak. He spoke Cernai fluently, deflecting barbed questions, parrying insinuations. Lysara watched him, skepticism melting to intrigue. His tongue was as sharp as any Cernai blade, his restraint a kind of strength she had not expected. Between courses he listened more than he spoke, his eyes never straying far from her. When he did address her, it was as a partner, not a prize. She found herself drawn in despite herself, responding with sly wit, trading jests in her native tongue. The council noted every exchange, reading their body language as carefully as a treaty. As the dinner wound down, Lysara caught her reflection in a polished panel, her cheeks flushed, her eyes bright. For the first time since her arrival, she did not feel like a pawn. Later the corridors were silent, the weight of the evening pressing close. Marcus keyed open the suite, gesturing her inside. He moved to the window, gazing out at the silver-lit expanse of the city beyond. Lysara followed, heart beating fast. She stepped close enough to feel the heat of his skin. One clawed finger traced the line of his jaw, cool and deliberate. "What is it you truly desire, Marcus?" she whispered, her voice a low purr in the hush. The air between them charged, every breath an invitation. Marcus's eyes flickered, a war within. For a moment she thought he would close the distance, surrender to the tension crackling between them. Instead, he stepped back, breaking the spell. "I want peace, for both our peoples, for you." His voice was gentle but resolute. Lysara's hand dropped, her expression hardening with confusion and the first hint of pain. For the first time in her life, she felt the sharp sting of personal rejection, an ache deeper than pride, somewhere near longing. The moment hung between them, unresolved, as if the universe itself waited to see what they would choose next. Restless, Lysara prowled Marcus's study, unable to bear the confines of her own thoughts. Shadows gathered in the corners, the walls lined with data scrolls and relics from distant worlds. A human's treasures, curated and deliberate. She moved silently, trailing her fingers over the surface of his desk. A holographic interface shimmered to life beneath her touch, spilling soft blue light across her skin. Curiosity overcame caution. She accessed a folder marked with the Federation's seal, expecting routine reports. Instead, Marcus's private logs appeared, personal, unguarded, meant for no eyes but his own. She hesitated, the Cernai code of honor whispering at the edge of her mind. Yet the ache inside her, the wound of rejection, The confusion of his distance demanded answers. She played the most recent entry, his voice low and raw. She is remarkable. Keeping my distance is a struggle. Every instinct urges me closer. To treat her as property is unthinkable, yet I cannot ignore the connection. If I falter, I risk everything: her trust, this fragile peace, my own principles. I can only hope she understands restraint is respect, not rejection. Lisara froze, her certainty dissolving. In Surnai tradition, distance meant disdain, a public refusal to acknowledge worth. But here, in Marcus's words, was something different, an ache of longing contained by respect, not contempt. She drew a trembling breath, her claws retracting, the anger she'd nursed bleeding into confusion. Had she been so blind to his meaning? Her mind raced, old truths warring with new understanding. What did it mean to be valued, not as a weapon or a prize, but as an equal? A sudden chime split the silence. She spun, tension crackling down her spine. The doors parted with a hiss, admitting Reg, imposing as ever, her single golden eye hard as hammered metal. The matriarch wasted no time on greetings. Lisara, we speak now, without the masks of ceremony, Reg declared, stepping forward, her presence filling the room. Lisara straightened, instinctively defensive. What is this, Ambassador? Reg's gaze flicked to the holographic display, then back to Lisara. Enough. You are not here for sentiment. It is time you learn the truth of your existence. Her words rang with finality, each syllable a stone dropped in still water. Marcus entered, drawn by the disturbance, face set in wary lines. Reg acknowledged him with a curt nod, but did not slow. Lisara, you are not merely a bride, Reg said, voice cold as the void. You are our instrument. Engineered, your genetics modified to host a sterilizing agent, dormant but absolute. Should your union with this human be consummated, the agent will activate, spreading through soul command, rendering their lineages sterile. A single touch, and our enemies will wither. Lisara's world tilted. What have you done to me? Her voice was a broken snarl, disbelief and horror warring in her chest. Reg's face was unmoved. You were bred for purpose. Your loyalty is irrelevant. Your body is the weapon. Should Marcus die by any hand, the agent will trigger fail-safe protocol. The Federation collapses in a generation, and Surnai supremacy endures. Marcus's eyes burned with revulsion. You made her into this? Without her consent? Without her knowledge? Reg's lips curled, not quite a smile. Sentiment is a luxury of the weak, Marcus of Soul. But I offer you a choice. Surrender Lisara to us for silent disposal, and you may live. Refuse, and the fail-safe activates with your death. The outcome is the same for your people. Silence pressed in. Lisara's breaths came ragged, fury and shame twisting inside her. Marcus's jaw clenched. You will not touch her. I will not play executioner for your schemes. Reg's eye narrowed, her voice soft and venomous. You would condemn your own kind for her? Leave, Marcus said, his voice like ice fracturing. Go now, or I call the Federation Guard. Reg's gaze lingered on Lisara, unreadable. Remember, daughter, your fate was chosen long before you had a name. She swept from the room, the threat lingering like a poison in the air. When the door sealed, Marcus found Lisara standing by the panoramic window, staring into the endless black, her reflection ghosted against the stars. He approached quietly, his footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. She did not turn. Her voice was hollow. Is it true? Am I nothing more than a weapon to them? He nodded, his features drawn with pain. Reg told me everything. They engineered you, Lisara, not for alliance or love, but to destroy. You were used. The words landed like blows. Lisara's legs buckled. She slid to the floor, arms wrapped around herself, shaking. Her entire life, her strength, her pride, reduced to a tool in someone else's war. Her identity crumbled, grief and fury mixing until she could not breathe. Marcus knelt beside her. He did not speak, nor did he reach for her at first. He simply sat, his presence steady, a warm anchor in the cold sea of her anguish. Finally, with infinite gentleness, he touched her shoulder. The contact was feather light, an offering rather than a claim. Lysara flinched, but did not pull away. The touch was nothing like she had known. No dominance, no command, just a quiet sharing of pain. For her, it was the most intimate act she had ever experienced, more profound than any ritual or ceremony. Tears welled, silent, golden on her cheeks. Marcus's hand remained, patient and sure. "You are not their weapon," he murmured. "Not to me." They stayed that way for a moment, two souls bound by betrayal and tenderness, the weight of the galaxy forgotten. A sudden hiss shattered the calm, the electric shriek of a plasma cutter biting into the suite's armored door. Red light spilled through the widening gap, the air charged with danger. Raig's agents were coming, the future uncertain and perilous. Marcus rose, resolve hardening his features, and offered his hand. This time, Lysara took it, their fates entwined as the door buckled and the stars watched in silent witness. The door burst open with a shriek of stressed metal and a halo of orange sparks. Lysara and Marcus moved as one, no signal, no hesitation, just pure instinct and trust forged in the crucible of betrayal. Lysara's body blurred across the chamber. She flipped the heavy meeting table onto its side, the basalt slab thundering against the floor, creating instant cover. Marcus dropped behind her, drawing his sidearm, the Federation-issue weapon humming to life in his grip. Raig's agents surged in, 3 Cernai in black armor, faces hidden, weapons raised. The first fired a bolt of plasma that sizzled past Lysara's shoulder, scoring the wall. She sprang over the table, claws flashing, a predator unleashed. In a single fluid motion, she disarmed the closest attacker, wrenching his arm until bones snapped. He crumpled, and she dropped to the floor, sweeping his legs and driving a vicious elbow into his throat. He fell, gasping, unconscious. Marcus sighted on the next. The Cernai's energy shield flared as Marcus's first shot struck, but he adjusted, aiming for the emitter on the shoulder. The second bolt overloaded the generator, sparking an explosion of blue light that hurled the attacker backward. The last agent hesitated, caught between the human's gun and the fury of Lysara's assault. She bared her teeth and fainted forward. He broke, retreating into the corridor. Marcus didn't wait. He grabbed Lysara's arm. "Go!" They sprinted through the breach, down a side passage. The alarm blared, echoing through the diplomatic wing, red strobes pulsing across their path. Marcus led them into the service corridors, a twisting maze behind the opulent facade, all pipes and low ceilings, the air thick with the scent of machine oil and recycled air. At last they ducked into a narrow alcove, barely large enough for two. Lysara pressed her back against the cold wall, chest heaving, blood still singing with adrenaline. Marcus wiped sweat from his brow, trying to steady his breathing. In the hush, Lysara spoke, her voice a soft, measured murmur. "You have never killed before." She said it not as accusation, but as a fact laid bare. Marcus shook his head, eyes haunted. "I am a maker. My hands build things, ships, treaties, hopes. Taking life, it's not what I am." He met her gaze, vulnerable in a way that cut through the chaos. She glanced away, jaw clenched. "On Cernai, my worth was measured by lethality. I was taught that mercy is weakness, that choice is an illusion. Every lesson was a test of how efficiently I could destroy." Her voice dropped, barely more than a breath. "No one ever asked me what I wanted." Marcus touched her hand, gentle but firm. "Now you have one. You choose." The words hung between them, a lifeline in the darkness. Lysara searched his face, golden eyes flickering with emotion. Why not simply claim what was given? She asked, voice trembling between challenge and plea. It would be easier. The treaty, the alliance, it would all be settled. He shook his head, sorrow and conviction mingling in his gaze. It would be wrong. You are a person, Lysara, not a prize, not a weapon. I could never take what should be given freely. A long silence, punctuated only by the distant thud of boots and the wail of alarms. Lysara's expression shifted, pride softening to something raw and unguarded. She pressed her forehead to his, eyes sliding closed. The gesture was surnai, ancient, sacred, a mingling of breath and intent. Then, without warning, she kissed him, fierce, tender, real. There was no surrender to fate, only to the truth between them. When they parted, the world had narrowed to the space they shared. Lysara's lips quirked in a half-smile, fierce with new resolve. "We are not finished," she whispered. They slipped from the alcove, moving with purpose. The corridors grew brighter as they approached the communications hub, a glowing core of the embassy, ringed by armored bulkheads and security checkpoints. Through a vent, they watched Raeg's forces gathering. Surnai warriors in ceremonial black, bristling with weapons, eyes hard and unyielding. Marcus crouched, studying the layout. "We have to reach the main comms panel. If we can get a message to the Federation fleet, they can override security protocols and extract us." Lysara peered through the grate, counting guards. "The main floor is suicide. They are expecting you." He nodded, tracing a route along the ceiling. "There's a maintenance shaft, above the ductwork. I can crawl through and reach the uplink from above, bypass their line of sight." He looked at her, worry tightening his features. "I need a distraction. Something loud enough to draw them away, but not so dangerous you get caught." She bristled, bracing herself. "You would send me alone into their hands?" Marcus touched her shoulder, eyes fierce. "You are not expendable, Lysara. I will not lose you to them, not now." His thumb brushed her cheek, a brief, grounding touch. "Promise me you'll be careful. If you are captured—" She silenced him with a look, fierce and resolute. "I am Surnai, Marcus. I do not surrender, and I am no longer anyone's weapon." Their eyes locked, an unspoken pact forged in danger and trust. Outside, the voices grew louder, footsteps converging. Marcus slid into the shaft, vanishing into the darkness above. Lysara squared her shoulders, every muscle coiled, ready to unleash chaos. They parted at the crossroads of survival, each trusting the other to fight for more than just their own life. Lysara waited until Marcus's boots faded, then stepped into the light, golden eyes blazing, no longer a tool of fate, but a force of her own will. Lysara drew enemy fire with the grace and speed of a wildcat, darting through the harsh light and billowing smoke of the embassy's core. Plasma bolts hissed past, carving molten scars in the walls. She never lingered, always in motion, a flicker of red and gold, her tail a lash of warning. Surnai guards shouted, weapons barking, but she slipped their nets, turning pursuit into chaos. Above, Marcus crawled through the narrow service shaft, muscles burning with strain. Every breath was measured, every movement calculated for silence. He reached a vent, peered through the slats, and saw two Surnai warriors guarding the door below, backs to him, eyes fixed on the melee Lysara created. He braced himself, counted to 3, and dropped. His boots hit the floor with a heavy thud. Before the guards could react, he lashed out, the butt of his sidearm striking one across the temple. The Surnai collapsed, armor clattering. The second spun, drawing a blade, but Marcus caught his arm, twisted, and drove his knee into the attacker's gut. The guard folded, air whooshing from his lungs. Marcus finished the job with a sharp blow to the head, then hurried down the corridor, heart hammering, hands slick with adrenaline. He reached the control center, a stark, circular chamber ablaze with holographic displays. In the center, Raeg waited, draped in battle regalia, her single golden eye burning with fanatical resolve. She held a vibroblade, its edge shivering with lethal promise. "Marcus of Saul," she sneered, voice echoing against stone and steel. "You could have ruled by her side. Instead, you force me to do this." Marcus kept his weapon leveled, but Rhaeg moved with terrifying speed. She slashed, the blade singing through the air. He dodged, firing twice. One shot went wide, the other grazed her shoulder, drawing a line of sizzling blood. Rhaeg hissed, lunged. Marcus tried to bring up his arm, but she was already too close. Pain exploded through his side as her blade cut deep, just below his ribs. He gasped, stumbling backward, the world narrowing to the hot burn of the wound. Rhaeg pressed her advantage, her blade rising for the kill. Suddenly, Lysara crashed through the door, a living storm of fury. She barreled into Rhaeg, claws flashing, intercepting the descending blade. Metal met bone. A glancing blow tore through Lysara's shoulder, hot blood streaming down her arm. She ignored the pain, twisting, trapping Rhaeg's weapon arm. Rhaeg snarled, struggling, but Lysara bared her teeth and raked her claws across the matriarch's throat. Rhaeg fell, choking, the light fading from her golden eye. Lysara caught her as she sagged, lowering her gently to the floor. Rhaeg's lips moved, a final curse, or perhaps a plea, but Lysara could not hear it over the pounding of her own heart. Marcus, face ashen, staggered to the comms panel. Blood soaked his tunic, his vision swimming. He slapped the emergency override, activating the embassy's broadwave. "This is Marcus Hale of the Sol Federation. The treaty has been sabotaged. Ambassador Rhaeg has conspired to deploy a bioagent against both Federation and Cernai Command. Proof follows." Rhaeg, dying, found her voice at last. Her words spilled into the open comms, echoing through the system, a confession and a condemnation, impossible to refute. Lysara listened as the truth spread, her former matriarch's legacy unraveling in real time. Then it was over. Guards flooded in, too late to stop the violence, but just in time to witness its aftermath. The threat ended, the broadcast complete. Lysara crumpled beside Marcus, her wounds forgotten in the rush to keep him conscious. Weeks passed. The suite was restored, its shattered tables and scorched walls replaced with gleaming surfaces and soft light. The threat of war had receded, the embassies filled again with cautious hope and whispered gratitude. Marcus recuperated in the Federation's medical bay, his side bound in white bandages, monitors quietly charting his recovery. Lysara sat beside him each day, her own arm cradled in a sling, the wound on her shoulder a badge of survival. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It was peaceful, filled with the comfort of shared ordeal. Outside, dignitaries spoke of heroism and sacrifice. Inside, the world had grown quiet, intimate. Rhaeg's treachery had brought shame upon her house, her name erased from the ancestral halls. The treaty was rewritten. No more bloodline bargains, no more living weapons. Marcus and Lysara were hailed as the architects of a new peace, their partnership redefined by choice, not necessity. One afternoon, sunlight streamed through the window, casting golden stripes across Lysara's arm. She traced the markings, her claws gentle on her skin. "These stripes," she said softly, "once meant I belonged to the House of Rhaeg, that I was born for war, for obedience. But you—" She glanced at Marcus, her expression open and vulnerable. "You've shown me they are just marks. I decide what they mean now." Marcus reached over, his fingers warm as they brushed her hand. His smile was gentle, proud. "You are free to choose, Lysara. No one else gets to write your story." The old power dynamic was gone, replaced by the quiet certainty of equals. Lysara drew a slow breath, her golden eyes searching his. "I was given to you, human. Why do you still hesitate?" Marcus's touch was feather light as he cupped her cheek, reverent and sure. I was waiting for you to choose me. Lysara leaned into his hand, purring softly, the sound vibrating through the stillness. She pressed her forehead to his, then drew him close. In that embrace, there was no obligation, no treaty, only love, freely given and freely received. Their bond was sealed not by fate or politics, but by the power of their own choosing. 3 years later, on the verdant world of Novara, Marcus stood on the balcony of their hillside home, the evening air scented with sweet rain and the sound of distant birdsong. Far below, the valley shimmered with fields of silver-leaf trees and golden grasses that rippled in the wind, a living testament to peace hard won. He rested his hands on the polished rail, lost in thought as twilight fell, the sky a canvas of violet and rose. Soft footsteps sounded behind him. Lysara slipped her arms around his waist, the warmth of her body a grounding anchor. Her purr, low, melodic, vibrated against his back. "You're thinking too loudly again," she teased, her voice husky with affection. A smile tugged at his lips, chased away the furrow from his brow. He turned slightly, his hand covering hers. "Can you blame me? There are resource negotiations tomorrow. Kael's proposal could shift the entire council." She pressed her cheek against his shoulder, brushing her lips across his ear. "You always take the weight of the world, Marcus. I remember a time when you tried to carry me, too." He chuckled, the sound easy and unguarded. "Do you ever miss it?" he asked, voice softer now. "Your old life." The warrior's path, the certainty of battle. She was quiet a moment, golden eyes reflecting the shifting light. When she spoke, her voice was gentle, threaded with a joy he had come to treasure. "My true life began with you," she murmured, her lips tracing the line of his jaw. "The rest was survival. This—" She gestured to the land, their home, the faint laughter that drifted up from below, "is living." Lysara had changed in ways subtle and profound. The edge was still there, a flash in her eyes, the precision in her movements, but it had softened, rounded by humor and a warmth that radiated through every room she entered. The deadly grace remained, but the old barriers were gone. In their home, she was playful, quick to laughter, her tail flicking Marcus's knees during mock combat, her purrs erupting as often as her old growls. They sparred still, but the contests had become a kind of dance. Tonight, after dinner, they had squared off in the garden, the grass springy beneath their feet. Marcus feinted left, Lysara spun, catching his arm and pulling him into a gentle fall, pinning him with a knee to his chest. He grinned up at her, breathing hard. "Unfair advantage," he protested. She leaned down, her hair spilling around them, her voice a mock whisper. "You never complain when I win." He caught her hand, pressed a kiss to her palm, and rolled her into the grass. They laughed, the sound bright and free, until the apprentices called them inside. Together they mentored two young charges, a human girl, fierce and analytical, and a Surinai boy named Kale, his eyes sharp and questioning. Tonight the apprentices argued in the study, voices raised, passion flaring as they debated water rights for the northern steppes. Kale's tail lashed, his tone clipped. "If the Federation claims the rivers, the Surinai will lose vital ground. Is that the peace your council promised?" The human girl, Lyra, bristled. "Your family hoards the source springs. My people dig wells and find only dust. Is that unity?" Marcus began to intervene, but Lysara held up a hand, stepping between the two. Her presence was commanding, but her smile was soft. "You argue over lines on a map," she said, eyes moving between them. "But water ignores your boundaries. Survival comes not from dividing the flow, but from sharing it. Trust is built drop by drop, as is peace." Kael's shoulders relaxed, Lyra's glare softened. The debate eased, turning to solutions and compromise. Lysara glanced at Marcus, pride glowing in her eyes. He squeezed her hand, their partnership now reflected in the next generation. Night deepened, stars igniting above the treetops. Later, Marcus and Lysara sat entwined on the balcony, wrapped in a woven blanket, the hush of the world settling around them. Marcus traced the lines of her skin, those old jagged stripes that once marked her for war. His touch was reverent, every caress a promise. She turned her face to his, her expression vulnerable beneath the moonlight. Sometimes I wake and remember what I was made to be. My body, my mind, shaped for violence, for someone else's cause. Her voice trembled. Some part of me fears it's not truly gone, that I am not truly free. He cupped her cheek, his gaze unwavering. Lysara, I admired your strength from the first. But what I love is the courage you found to choose your own destiny. You are more than what they made you. Her eyes glistened, luminous and fierce. She squeezed his hand, words thick with hope. I have chosen a new path for this body, for us. She hesitated, her breath shuddering with joy and nervousness. The healers confirmed it today. Marcus, I am carrying our child. The words tumbled into the night, electric and impossible. Marcus's world spun, 1,000 emotions at once. He stared, wide-eyed, as joy, disbelief, and awe collided. Lysara, his voice broke. He pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her hair, clutching her as though she were the only solid thing in the universe. Her purr rumbled, strong and steady, mingling with his laughter and tears. She pressed her palm to his cheek, the gesture a vow. This child will never be a weapon, Marcus. Only a miracle, ours. They stayed like that, wrapped in each other, the warmth of their bodies a shield against the night. Novara's gentle breeze carried the scent of hope through the open doors. The world below slept in peace, a peace they had fought to forge, now made new in the promise of the life growing within her. In the hush, Marcus and Lysara held each other in the future, a miracle born not of violence, but of love that had turned all wounds into hope. This brings our story to a close. Don't forget to hit subscribe, give the video a like, and share in the comments which part you enjoyed the most. Our team will truly appreciate your support. There are plenty more exciting stories waiting for you on our channel. See you in the next video.